Hi everyone, well I'm back again, and this time I'm going to show you how to do sugar roses using an all-in-one cutter. And the set that I'm using are these. These are PME cutters, but various other makes on the market like Orchard Products and things like that. So I'll get straight on with it. I'm not going to make the spray up because you can see that in my previous videos on doing roses on my channel. So if you go onto there, this is a rose that a full rose that I've done that I've finished. One of the sepals has fallen back on that. Didn't notice that because I left it. So first of all, the first thing to do is to make sure that you make your centre small enough. Don't make it too big if you're doing these flowers, because if you do, then you're going to find that your petals won't come high enough up on your flower, and you're going to end up with the centre showing, and we don't want that. So like we did on previous roses, so I'm going to start off with the 20 gauge wire. I always cut the wires into 3 when I'm doing roses, because that gives you a long enough stem to work with when you do put it into a spray. I'm just going to get rid of 2 of those there, and what you need to do then is to make the hook in the wire like that, because you need, and get that quite close in. I'm going to use some coloured paste for this, because like I said before, when you're doing roses you can use up all your odds and ends to make your centres, because that shouldn't be seen when you put the flower together. So I'm going to start off with a small ball of paste, probably slightly bigger than that, but don't go as big as you did with the other ones, because the petals have got to come right from the base upwards, where on the normal roses you can start higher up. So a small ball of paste, hooked wire straight into your paste like that, and then work your top of your paste like that to get into a cone shape. Make sure that the bottom is sealed up. If you've got a bit of, looks as though it's going to come loose there, just work that round. So there we are. You can see that one a bit better than you can the white one that I've done. Set that to one side to dry. So like everything else, you need it at least a day to dry. And then fat on your board, paste on it. You don't want to be lifting it up. Once you start doing this, don't stop. It stays on your board. You're not rolling out pastry. You need to roll it quite thinly, like you would with a normal rose. The colour I've used for this, by the way, is one from Sugar Flare, which is called Dusky Rose, which is this one here. And you can get quite a deep colour. It's actually Dusky Rose / wine. So if you wanted a wine colour, you could use that as well. But it gives you a different sort of type of pink colour, does this. Quite an unusual. And I call it an old-fashioned pink, like for old-fashioned roses, rather than the sort of pink that we've used before, like this sort of pink that I used for the pansies in an earlier video. Right, so start off with your smallest cutter, and I'm going to cut out one layer like that. Take all the excess away. Make sure that your petals are cut through, so that when you come to thin your edges, they're not going to stick together. That's it, that should be alright. That's it. Now you can get that onto your pad, ready to thin your edges. Then take your ball tool. I'm using a medium ball tool here. Start from the top edge and go down. Sometimes you might find it's a good idea to get one of the petals out of the way so you don't go over both of them. They're actually going in the right way, so we'll we're okay there, but you might need to lift a petal up or something to separate it, just so you don't get them stuck together, because you want them free like this. And you need plenty of movement in the edge of your petals so that you can curl them back. Then what I'm going to do is turn it over onto the side that's the grease side, and I'm going to glue all over that petal, and then one of your facing petals, it doesn't matter which one you go for, glue all over. This is slightly different to what we did with the separately wired petals. So get your cone, and also we need to put a bit of glue in the middle as well, because that is going to stick to the base of your cone down here. Get it over between two fingers and then put your wire through it like that. And while it's still flat on your hand, bring your petal up, and then you want one side to go all the way around, and then right round the other way, as tight as you can. If you find you've got a bit of a gap there, get probably a brush handle or the end of your silk veining tool, something like that, just to push your paste in, just to make sure you've got it right in. Then the other petal that you glued, bring that up to face. Now you might need to stretch it a little bit here, so just very gently with your finger, just push it up and then bring it round to meet on the other side, like that. Right, now what you need to do now is to get the petals over your thumb and your first finger and keep hold of it there. We're not going to do anything with those fingers. I'm just going to glue half of the petal. This is basically the same process as you would do with the separately wired petals. Right, bring your first petal up, just slide it up so that you've got your petal very slightly higher than the other petal, and just tuck in one side. Go around to the other side, bring that petal up, cross over and wrap that round. If they break away from the bottom, it doesn't matter so much, but as long as you've got them fixed, and then the last petal goes underneath the first one, and bring that back round, and then just work that round like that. Okay, then tweak your petals back. As you can see, the reason why I've put them slightly higher is because when I curl them back, they come down to the same level as the centre. Okay, now I've got one that's already dry here that I'm going to come on to in a second, so we're going to go on to the next layer. You don't need any more fat on there, because as long as you've got, it's a greasy surface, it should stick. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add some white paste into the colour that I've got. Because I've got quite a lot there, I'm just going to take a bit of that off there, because I'm going to end up with lots of it if I do. So add the same amount of white paste to that. The paste that I'm using is Squire's Kitchen. I buy these big packs rather than buying the smaller packs. For $15.50 for a kilo, it works out a hell of a lot cheaper than buying the 200 gram packs. So if you work it out, you've got 5 200 gram packs in here that normally cost you about £6 odd per pack. So I mean, 3 packs of that is more than one of those packs. So you can see where I'm coming from, saving money. I always try and get people to try and save money if you can. If you're going to do a lot of flowers, there's no point in buying the small packs, buy the bigger ones. My students do use the Renshaw's flower paste. I prefer this one because it's a bit stickier, and when you're putting wires in, when you're doing things like leaves and that, you don't tend to need to put glue on your wires like you do with the other one. And it's the difference, the way that it's made, the ingredients that go into it, that give you that sort of an effect. A little bit more fat on there. Right, roll that out. One thing that I didn't mention when I was colouring this, and I will show you on the next layer, to make sure that you got the colour evenly all the way through your paste, if you cut your paste in half and then have a look at it to see if it's evenly distributed, in other words, no lines in it, it's one way of making sure you've got the colour all the way through whatever you're doing, especially if you're doing dark colours, because it will show up more. On paler colours it's not too bad, but dark colours are terrible for that. So I'm going to put that one away, and I'm going to go on to the next size now. Cut out one like that, take the outside away, just make sure you've got your cuts all the way down and it's not sticking before you start thinning your edges. There we are. Onto your paste, onto your pad rather, and then likewise thin your edges. Now that's stuck a little bit there, so I should have lifted that up, but never mind. Doesn't matter because I've got a tatty edge on there, because you're not going to see that anyway when you put that together. And just if anybody's not done sugar flowers before and they think, oh, you make everything look so easy and nothing goes wrong. Yes, things do go wrong, and I've just proved it there. And we all have to start somewhere. Everybody's been at the same stage at some point. Doesn't make any difference how long they've been doing it or how good they are. We've all had to start at the bottom and work up. Turn it over, the same as before. Now what I'm going to do with this time is I'm going to pick it up and get it onto my hands first before I put any glue on it, because I don't want to move it again now. And then just glue half the petal on each of the petals. Don't forget the centre bit. Don't go too high with the glue or put too much on. Don't swamp it with glue, because apart from the fact it will slide around all over the place, when you come to dust it, you'll find if you've got any glue where it shouldn't be, you'll find it very difficult to take the colour. So again, make sure it's between two fingers in the centre and put your wire through. So I'm just going to manipulate it so I've got my two fingers underneath again. Bring your petals up and tuck one side round, and then just go around and overlap the same as you would with a normal rose. The petals will fall into place here. That's one advantage of doing this. You don't have to think about where your petals are going to fall. When you bring your petals up, they just fall in the right position. Make sure that that first one's open and your next one goes underneath there like that, and bring that back round over there. Go around, secure your bottom, then tweak your petals back, just with your finger and thumb, just sort of curve them back. So I've seen some people curving the petals before they put them on, but sometimes they can go out of shape, so I always find it's a good idea to get your petals on first before you start shaping them. Right, so put that to one side. Back to the lighter coloured paste. As you can see there, I've gone a little bit lighter, and you can see how it's grown as well. So that was the first colour, this is the second colour. So I'm just going to take half of that and keep that back for 1 minute, so that I can show you the difference in all the colours, the layers that I've used. With these sort of roses, unless you want to go on any further, there's only really 3 layers to these, which if you've got a lot of roses to do, just make it a lot faster. And when I had a lot of wedding cakes to do, I did tend to use this method sometimes, but I do prefer the petal by petal version to this, because obviously you're going to get more difference between your layers, starting with your first layer and then you're only doing 2 petals the same colour, and then after that you're putting white into each colour, unless you're doing a dark colour like a burgundy or a red rose, then I wouldn't put any white into it. But you can deepen your colour when you come to dusting by concentrating a deeper colour on the centre to make it look darker when you're doing a dark colour. As far as colouring and things like that are concerned with this, you can go back to my other videos where I cover all that sort of thing, making the leaves, making the colouring the flowers and putting the spray together. There we are. Just put a slight bit more on there. You only need a tiny little bit, don't be putting big clumps on, you only need enough just to wax it down, you don't want it caking on. Roll out your paste. Right, put that one again. Wait, so we're going on to the larger size. So I've used all three sizes now, so we're on to the big one. Make sure you go all around your edges to make sure you've got a good clean cut. So there, now you've got all your three different shades of your rose there, so from dark, medium to light. Make sure that all your petals are all separated. Don't buy cheap cutters either. I keep telling my students not to do that because they buy these cheap cutters and then they wonder why they don't work. Well, they don't work because they haven't got cutting edges, because they're copies of the real thing. There is no benefit in buying anything cheap in this business. If you're going to do the job right, you need the right tools to work with. Right, thin your edges again. Don't be frightened of putting some pressure on when you're doing this either, so you want to be half on and half off. Put plenty of pressure on. Some petals you don't need, it depends what kind of flowers you're doing, but with roses we do need that frilly edge on it. I'm not showing my face today, by the way, because you've seen it on all the other videos. You don't need to see my ugly mug every time I do a video, so I'm not going to do. So again, glue half of it. As I say, you probably find it better to do it on your hand. I'm doing it this way for speed, but normally I would put it onto my hand before I put the glue on. Then you've got it all in position, but I'm sort of going the wrong way around with this one. So if I just get that underneath there and get it back onto my hand where I should have been in the first place. Go back to your rose, again in the centre, pop your wire through like that. Now this time I'm going to drop it down upside down so that the petals fall where I want them to fall. Now you should have each of your petals. If you look where your join of your petal is there, then that petal comes up there, across there. So tuck the first one in, then bring your second one up and tuck it round both sides. Third one, across there, like that. Fourth one, they'll overlap where they fall, and then your first petal, pull that back and pull your last petal, your fifth one, up and tuck that underneath, and then bring your first one back up again. Neaten round under the bottom to make sure you've got them all stuck. If you haven't got enough glue on, you can always add some glue afterwards. That's the easy part. Just ease that one up because that'll come up far enough. But you can't take it off if you've got too much on, so there's one there that's a little bit loose, so we'll just go in with that with a little bit of glue in there and tuck that back up, and then just go round and over curl your edges this time. The more open the roses, the more they curl back. But remember, whatever colour you're doing, it's always going to dry a shade darker. So what I do now is turn that upside down and put that into some dry foam then. This is Dry Oasis. if you've got some polystyrene or something like that, that'll do, but this is a lot easier to work with because polystyrene is quite springy and it can bounce out. Put that to one side to dry, and that's that part done. So all the other parts, doing the calyx and everything else, is all on my other videos. So if you want to go onto my YouTube channel, there's about 6 videos on doing the roses in the first place, because I started right from making the cone all the way through to making the spray of flowers and everything in between, colouring, putting together the different parts, the calyx on the back, the leaves, filler flowers and everything else. They're all on there. And I did the cream ones with the pinky coloured edge on there, and then there's also again the roses and a spray and colouring are also on my rose and Stargazer Lily video. So again, I've covered them all on there. So if you've got any questions, get in touch, send messages. I will get back to you as soon as I can, and look forward to the next video. I'm going to do other things like orchids and different other flowers. I think I'm going to do an Alströmera, and see you in the next one. So have a nice day and stay safe.